Hey, today I'm going to talk about 3 French movies directed by this guy. I am not going to say his name, and I'm also not going to say the names of those 3 movies because they're long and I just want to move on from the intro. I want to be done with this. So the intro is done now. We're going to move on to the actual review part. Cool, great. I'm really happy. First up is That Obtuse Object of Desire. This is a 1977 movie, and I have so many mixed emotions about this movie. So the basic premise is it's about this middle-aged man. He is 60 years old, and I would not call that middle-aged. He meets a group of people on a train and then tells him this story about how he tried to bang an 18-year-old girl for several months and failed, and how she's a bad person for not having sex with him. Like, it's not just that she's a bad person, it's that she is so bad that even if God forgave everyone for all of their sins, he would not forgive her for her sins of not wanting to have sex with him. Yep. So immediately I started this movie just really hating this guy. And I was like, I'm gonna give you a chance, man, but I really think you're a piece of shit and that I'm not gonna enjoy watching this movie because of how awful of a person you are. Well, I did enjoy it, weirdly enough. But it's because, like, first off, their relationship is just so ridiculous. It starts off with her working for him as a maid, and he just immediately, like, throws himself at her, just, like, tries to get with her, like, the first day that they meet. She immediately quits her job and runs away. But then they keep bumping into each other at different places and times, and, like, they kind of just get into, like, this weird sort of relationship thing that is kind of just a sugar baby, sugar daddy situation, except she doesn't like all the stuff that he buys for her. That's what she says. That's what he says she says, is that she doesn't like all the fancy stuff that he buys her. But I strongly think he's an unreliable narrator and he is just making stuff up. It's also really interesting because, like, no matter what happens, she just does not want to have sex with him. To the point of, like, at one point he is describing trying to rape this girl to a train car full of people, and they're all just like, oh, okay, yeah, And I'm like, this is so messed up. What is happening right now? That part's terrible. That's the worst. But what's so interesting is that I think she's ace. Like, she has zero desire to have sex with this guy. Like, she does fall in love with him, or he says that she falls in love with him. But she, like, at one point talks about, like, why do relationships need to have sex? Why can't we just be in love and live together and cuddle and stuff, but not have sex? And I'm like, oh my God, what? This is, wow. I've never seen a movie, like, have a love story like that. That's so cool. He completely disagrees with her, so that's really frustrating, and I wish he would have become more accepting of that over time, but he doesn't. But just to have her as a character is incredible. I love that. Because she is just a non-sexual person, and that's freaking neat. And also, just, like, even though their relationship is truly awful, it's kind of really realistic. Like, they keep getting together and breaking up over and over again, and it's just a very toxic relationship because they definitely want very different things, but they also can't quit each other like a drug. And it's like, yeah, I've known several people who are in relationships like that. This is the third of this guy's movies that I watched, and this is, like, the easiest movie to watch. It is the most, like, uses normal film language, and it's not dream sequences. I could just follow the story really well, and it was done really freaking well in a technical sense. The last thing I wanted to say is that I somehow didn't notice that the main woman in the movie was played by 2 different women. I legit didn't notice. I don't know how the hell I didn't recognize that it was 2 different women. It also kind of adds to the story in a unreliable narrator type of way because he keeps changing how she looks in the story, and that's really fascinating. But yeah, I definitely do not recommend this movie, though it wasn't a bad time, even though the main character was a very bad person. Next up is the discreet charm of the bourgeoisie. So first off, before I even talk about this movie, I have to talk about that title, because that last word, I wasn't entirely sure what the meaning of the word was going into the movie, and I'm still confused by it, or at least its usage here, because the word is often thought of as like high class people, but that's a common misconception. It actually means middle class. But like, the characters in this movie are definitely not middle class, because they all have multiple servants. And if the middle class has multiple servants, I have literally never met a middle class person in my entire life. But this movie's also very surrealist, so who knows? There is no real basic premise for this movie. It's just kind of maybe a series of dreams? It's so nonsensical, but like, it nails the dream thing in that, like, when you're in the moment, you totally get what's going on and you understand the context of everything that's happening. But then we move on to the next thing and it's like, wait, none of the previous stuff actually did make any sense. And also, what the hell is going on now? That was weird, this is weird. Okay, no, I'm okay with now stuff. And then move on to the next thing, and then you criticize the past thing, and it keeps doing that over and over again, and then the movie's done, and you don't understand what the hell just happened. It was, the movie was just like tripping balls for 2 hours without taking any drugs. And it was quite a ride. If you want to trip balls for 2 hours without drugs, give it a watch. If you don't want to do that, please do not watch this movie. Though it is interesting. And lastly is Diary of a Chambermaid. This is a 1964 movie, and spoilers, there is no literal diary in this movie. The basic premise is, it follows this Parisian woman who moves out to the countryside to be a maid, and it's basically just kind of following her life as a maid and all like the silly drama stuff that everyone's like, oh, she's too fancy for the countryside, and she's like, whatever, and stuff like that. And just like her trying to make friends with people and everyone criticizing her for every little thing and stuff. That's like the first half of the movie. Halfway through the movie, it takes a very dramatic turn that you cannot predict. I'm just gonna tell you what it is, because I know no one who watches these videos is gonna watch this movie. And that is, someone rapes and kills this 10-year-old girl. It's heavily implied to be the chauffeur guy, but it's never for sure found out. The chambermaid main character tries to pin it on him, but it doesn't work. And that's how the movie ends. Is she marries some random other old guy, which is also really weird. And then the bad guy gets away, and then fascism takes over in France. And then the movie stops. And it was just such a sudden ending that I was like, wait, what? There's no resolution. What is happening right now? Why is the movie done? And it was so frustrating. And I was like, what the hell was the point of that movie? What the hell just happened? Someone please tell me. And then, of course, no one's talking about a 60-year-old movie. So I couldn't find out what the hell the point of this movie was. I still enjoyed it though, because it was a very pretty movie. And I liked the main character a lot. She was great. But yeah, I still enjoyed this movie even though I didn't get it. I'd recommend it if you think it's interesting. I think this one's definitely worth checking out, because maybe you can figure out more of what's going on in this movie than I can. I did just spoil a bunch of stuff for you, but whatever. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got that obtuse object of desire, which is sex. He wants sex. That's what the obtuse object is. That movie is sitting at number 79 in the liked category. And then not too far behind that is the discreet charm of the bourgeoisie. And that is sitting at number 85, also in the liked category. And then bringing up the rear is Diary of a Chambermaid, sitting at 91. Again, also in the liked category. And that is out of a total of 163 old movies so far this year, and out of a grand total of 189 movies so far this year.